All right, Lee, I am finally doing this. I have the motivation to do it because I took an Adderall, an energy drink, and I had a bunch of mangosteens, so I think this is the time to do it. But I was gonna do my little stratum for these Hoyas that I have right here, but I was like, I got the setup, I'm energized, I'm ready to do it. All right, Maki, I gotta let you go. I got this Canadian guy that, it's a long story. Okay, cool. That's perfect right there. All right, so I got the two Wheeler Julian. Fuck, now I feel awkward. Anyways, okay, cool. So these are the two cuttings I have. They were in like an aeroid mix, so there's a little bit chunky chunk on there. You want to make sure to just trim off any dead roots and any extra like, oh fuck, I'm not good at this. Okay, cool. This is the pane of reference, okay. You want to make sure to trim off any gross shit, get it as clean as possible without damaging any roots, and trim off any dead roots that you need to. So I could go ahead and did that. And here's the other one. This one has a bit better roots and it already has a new growth point coming out right there. So looking pretty good. Okay, so spoiler alert, this one had stem rot, yay! So basically that means that, let me pull up this one. That means that when this part gets rotty and it's mushy and like I guess the skin is peeling off, that means it just got too wet and it was no longer viable. So the only way to stop it from spreading is you got to cut it off. So this one's still good. I was gonna put them together and Stratum and Leca, but I'm gonna actually separate them now because this one has not enough. It's gonna be too different of a amount of Stratum that the watering schedule would be off if I put them together. But I was going to if I had that much stem. Okay, so I cut it off and I dusted it with cinnamon, just natural cinnamon. You can get it from any like Trader Joe's or whatever. Just dust the tip and that's gonna seal the cutting and everything. So that one's gonna be good to go still right now. But it has a growth point as well. And this one does too. I'm gonna do this one first because it's just easier. I already trimmed any dead roots, got most of the soil and stuff off of it. You really want to get as much sphagnum moss off if it was in sphagnum moss, because that will definitely rot your roots, because in the stratum it's just going to suffocate it. So just try to get as much off without damaging the roots, trim off any dead roots, and you're good to go. After I do that personally, I do 1 part hydrogen peroxide and 3 parts water, and that's going to basically disinfect any rot that was on the plant. So any dead roots, any whatever, just any pests as well. It's going to basically desanitize it and make sure that it's all good to go in terms of transferring to different medium. Diluted hydrogen peroxide, just water, is basically good for root issues, any pests in the water, and just any open wounds on the plant. It's going to basically take care of that. So it's an all-around cure-all. Just make sure you don't overdo it. I think 1 part, 2, 3 parts water is fine. If you need a little bit more, you can do I do 1 part to 2 parts water if I feel like it needs a lot more, but it's not gonna do anything too crazy. But I soaked those guys in the mixture for 10 to 15 minutes and then took them out and let them dry out, and now they can go in Stratum. So I was gonna do both of them and this guy, but now since they're a little bit different in root size, I'm gonna use these smaller guys. So I'm gonna do this guy first. Pretty Clement there. I can't even say it. Clemerson. So first off, you're gonna do your leca. You want to do like, I would say 1/4 of the whatever container you're doing in. Always use clear cups just because it's easy to gauge the watering. So it's kind of big boys. Probably do 1 more. That's probably good right there. So that's about like a little bit more than 1/4 for whatever. We can probably add 1 more leca bowl. Cool. That's good to me in terms, you want to do between like 1/2 to 1/4 depending. You always want to do less stratum for a smaller cutting or smaller plant, just because, just like in having a big pot, if you have more medium, you have a higher chance of root rot with that. So smaller is always better in my opinion if you can, and the second the roots touch the bottom or they just seem to be filling the cup, you can just switch it over to a bigger stratum cup, or you can just do it in a potting mix if you feel comfortable with that at that point. So there's my leca. Then I got my scoop of stratum right here. I'm just gonna do 1 scoop first just to create the layer of stratum. Hope you can see it. That's perfect. So there we go. At that point, we can go ahead and put that's perfect right there. We can put the cutting in. So I lied to you. I'm gonna actually do this one first just because I want it to be happy already. So just lay it on there, and then let me get the Stratum out. It's gonna be fucking heavy. Oh my gosh, you can cuss and you guys can't tell me out all the time. Cool. Watch this table all collapse. That'd be my luck. All right, so my big Stratum bag. Gonna just center it and just start pouring around it. And it might be a little bit not stable because there's not a lot of the plant that's in the Stratum, but I'm gonna water it right now just so that it sticks to it better so it doesn't flop around and shit. Like, see right now, oh shit. Let me cut back and then I'll show you. All right, I actually found something very helpful. It's basically like this little hair clip, or I don't know, it's like a little U shape, and it basically pins down plants if you need to. So I'm surprised I had that laying around. So the more you know. Oh fuck. Now, Miss Hoya, let's be for real right now. Okay, I'm gonna water it. Fuck. I'm gonna do so many cuts, man. There we go. Now that looks great. All right, so when you're watering in Stratum, the Leca reservoir, the whole point of it is basically to show you how much water is at the bottom. So, fuck, I'm not in frame. So this you want wet, this you can fill up until it hits the Stratum. So, but usually I do a little bit below so that way I know there's water in the reservoir, but you don't want to get it past the little point that it switches to Stratum because that basically means you're gonna overwater it. If you have water in the Leca reservoir, it can still pull from it, and that way it keeps the medium at a good moist level. But once this dries out completely and it looks ashy dry like it was before I watered it, and there's no more water at the bottom, that's your chance to rewater it. But until the reservoir's all dried up, you're basically good to go. All right, doing the second one. Like it's already at the bottom. Gonna make a layer of Stratum. Cool. And then here's the cutting. Wait, I want it to be the degree thing. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put that in the bottom. You can even have it at an angle, doesn't really matter. All right, I got the Stratum. I'm gonna put it at an angle. Swag. All right. Have that growth point peek out a bit. And then I think a half scoop and I'll be good. And then I'm just gonna make sure not too much of the stem is in the Stratum so that way it doesn't get raw. I want the peeking out a bit. That's perfect right there. All right, and I just water. And then you can just watch it turn from that gray ashy color to, and then you can watch the water drop. Is that good? Right there. Oop, that's a little too much. So what I'll do is I'll just dump some out. I have this whole basin here, so I'll just hold it in. Perfect. And now we're back to good. You have some space in the Leca for the reservoir. You don't want to get it too, once it gets soaking up here into the Stratum, you dump too much water. You want a little bit of air in there. That one's solid. And also, there's the other one. I already lost it. Why am I so silly? I'm just a silly boy. Bruh. All right, next guy I have up is this rare vanilla orchid. Finally got it rooted in this high humidity little dome and everything. This is like I already have built up for this one's gonna get a bigger cup because it has more root potential. Got some Stratum ready, just gonna dump it in. Perfect. This one's already wet, but I'm just recycling, that's why. So that's like a good layer. There's already some water at the bottom. And for this one, because orchids, they don't like being suffocated. They like a lot of air in their medium. I did a half stratum and perlite, so it has more room to breathe. And it looks like cookies and cream and shit, but cool. So got my first layer in. I'm gonna get the plant in here. That's good. And then see this really good root? I'm gonna make sure it's sitting on top of it when it's in the medium too. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but that should be good right there. Perfect. I think that would be perfect. Okay, cool. So you see it right here. Perfect. I'm just gonna even it out, make sure it's not like too crunchy in one area. I can stick that root in there too. Perfect. All right, now I'm just gonna water the top to basically get it all set in there. Watching the leca reservoir so it doesn't get too full as I'm doing this. Cool, that's perfect. So there we go. It's all watered. It's in a little stratum and perlite mix, so it should be doing good in terms of breathing. You can do perlite and half stratum if you want to, you know, extend the amount of stratum you have by mixing it half by basically diluting it. It's going to do the same effect on plants. It's also better for plants that just seem to have trouble growing roots. They're more delicate. I do a perlite mix as well, but you can always do full stratum if you're just confident that it's a more hardy plant. But perlite is better just for plants that need to breathe more or just have trouble growing roots, or you're just really sensitive to getting them rotting in stratum. But there, you got air bubbles in the medium. And this is vanilla orchid's good to go. So all set, and this guy's good too. All right, and that's how they all look all set up. I added perlite to this one right here because I realized it could use a little bit of breathing too because of that previous rot I had to cut off. But yeah, basically covered everything. It's super duper simple. Just get a bag of stratum, perlite and leca, any clear cups, do your little reservoir of leca, 1/4, put a layer of stratum, add your cutting or plant that needs help rooting, because this is what it's all about. Stratum is just the best thing to root any kind of plant, and if you have any trouble rerooting a plant or just want to root a cutting, this will do it in like a week. You'll already see new roots. It's crazy. And it's just honestly my favorite little plant hack in the world. You get stratum from any pet store. It's used for aquariums as like the base layer before they put gravel in, but it's just amazing at rooting plants. So I'll probably update how these guys are looking in like 2 weeks or whatever, and you're gonna see a ton of new roots on these guys. And you can keep them in stratum for, if it's just straight stratum, I wouldn't do it longer than a year, just because stratum slowly breaks down from that little caviar into like actual soil, and then it gets too congested and like it basically suffocates the plant at that point. It gets too mushy. But if you do perlite and stratum, you can extend how long it can stay in there by much longer. The only thing is that when you have perlite in there too, it just happens to get more algae over time because it's a clear cup and sunlight and everything. But yeah, once you get roots that are just filling up the entire cup and everything, you can transfer it to whatever medium you want that's best for it. But all plants love it, besides like, you know, like the typical orchids. It's just too compact for most of them. Vanilla orchid's a little bit different, so you can do it in there. And succulents would hate this too as well. But anything else, I know alocasias absolutely love this. Hoyas are great in this, and most plants, philodendrons, just it's gonna be happy in here. All right, before I end the video, I just want to show you an example of one that has really great roots in stratum, and it has a little bit of perlite too, just because, not a lot though. There's a little leca reservoir as well. As you can see, it's pretty dried up. There's no moisture at the bottom, so it's time to water this guy. This is my little caladium, red beret, one of my favorites. Super, super pretty. It has red variegation, which I love. But yeah, These are the roots on it, so you can see it's doing very, very well. Caladiums and alocasias, for whatever reason, just absolutely love stratum. Just never, ever let it dry out. So this is going to show you how to water it now. Got my little sprayer guy right here. But all you do is just spray the top, because you can see it's all that ashy color a bit right now. You can see it trickle down to the leca. Do a little bit more on this guy, because caladiums are super, super thirsty with plants. And then you're good. You filled up the leca reservoir, and now you would probably water this again in like another week, but that's how you water stratum plants. Thank you.